Pod Populi, podcast for the people.
I'm running on nothing but faith. There's things far too great that I want to accomplish. I'm hoping 25 hours a day, but something good works out, and I'm just like, dang. Think everything's gonna be okay. Yeah, I'm like, dang. Think you might just know the way. I'm like, dang.
Welcome to Dang.
Dang! Oh, sorry.
I am so excited today because
Yes.
we have one of my favorite people. Our friend Shannon Malish is visiting with us today about recovery.
She's a dang good person.
Yes. Yes, Shannon, thanks for coming on.
Yes.
I guess I got to say it too. Dang.
Dang, there
That's
you
right.
go. It feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So Shannon is the founder of Windmill Wellness Ranch and Brain Frequency Center in Texas. Shannon has a master's degree from the University of Texas, San Antonio in social work with an emphasis in addiction counseling.
Mm-hmm.
Her undergraduate degree, though, was in business management from the Azusa, is that how you say that? Pacific?
Yeah, Azusa Pacific University.
That's in California, right?
Yes, it is.
It is.
After college, though, so you studied business management, and
Mm-hmm.
she went on to help run a real estate investment trust on the New York Stock
Nice,
Exchange. It's pretty
nice.
amazing. But driven by personal loss, she specializes in treating trauma, addiction, and mental health. Shannon combines evidence-based therapy with innovative treatments like individualized transcranial
Yep.
magnetic
Wow.
stimulation, or ITMS, to help individuals achieve lasting recovery. And we are just so grateful to have Shannon
Yes.
on as our
Hey,
guest.
Shannon, can you use that brain thing on people to control them? I'm just curious.
I wish.
Oh, darn it.
I'd have my husband and kids in this chair constantly.
That's for sure.
Shannon, what inspired you to move from business into recovery?
Yeah.
So I had my own personal struggles. I wasn't built, I always thought I had to be a businesswoman like my mother. And I also had the gene. The gene people don't want to get, but now I'm glad I have it.
Yeah.
Addiction and alcoholism. And so I did pretty well for a while, and then I didn't do well. And I began drinking, and I just went downhill very quickly. I just couldn't drink like other people. And when all of these events kind of culminated, it wasn't just that, but several other events, I had to kind of take a look at my life. So I took 3 career aptitude tests online. And it kept saying social worker, social justice attorney. And I'm like, the computer's broken. I don't want to take babies away. That's what social workers do.
Yeah.
So I took another test and another test. So then I started reading about what it was and ended up signing up for classes and going to school, driving downtown San Antonio three days a week, and got my master's degree. And ended up at an internship at an addiction center, the oldest in Texas. And I was like, I've done a bunch of research. Why are they doing things this way? This is not the right way to do it. So that's the shortcut of how I got to where I am.
Yeah, a lot of those people, there's a lot of people out in this world that are functional alcoholics. They're able to function until they can't function. It's like they call it when you cross that that line, then they can't no longer function. But there's tons of people out there who are functional alcoholics.
So,
Yeah, and you know what? In a way, you could say I still was, but my husband wasn't going to put up with that because
Yeah.
I didn't drink during the day.
Yeah,
And I didn't drink every day.
Yeah.
I was a more dangerous type of drinker. They're called binge drinkers.
Yeah.
Right? People that drink every day build a bit of a tolerance, but I didn't. So when I drank, I drank for a desired effect, and it affected my relationships. Therefore, that is the definition of an alcoholic.
It sure is, yes.
I would say, I hate to say it, but half of the people walking around us are functional alcoholics.
Yes, they are. Yep.
But it was the only way I felt like I could relax and I could feel normal, and the anxiety would be taken off of me. But I was then not present for my family during those times.
Yep.
So I'm kind of glad my husband's like, you got to do something or I'm not sticking around. And so I did something.
yeah. Was it the pressure of like the business field that you were in? What was it that you think was kind of pushed it to that?
I'm going to say it was, I had 2 young kids. I was also raising a child that was not mine, trying to help out. And then I was already in school, and then lost my sister to mental health and addiction. So that even further emphasized the way that I was going.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Nobody
so
at 20 or even 18 really knows what they want to do with their lives, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are very few. I mean, there's a
I knew what I was going to do. Yeah. I knew where I was going.
Yeah, there are just a few that really know.
Yeah.
And then the rest of us are kind of out there going, well, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to commit to that. And then you find out, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Well, I always tell people that when they take on a job, they need to take on something that they're happy with. Because a lot of times people will do jobs, they're not happy in that job. And they work that job because it pays well and they can take care of their family. But at the end of the day, they're not happy. They're not happy working, that type of job.
So when you started in the recovery field, it must have been eye-opening. What was your biggest, what did I just get myself into moment?
Honestly, it was hearing about all the death.
Yeah.
So I would work with clients, and the next thing I would hear is that they're dead. And I'm like, well, I just saw them last week. What do you mean they're dead?
Yeah.
So that was the aha moment for me. And then they just kept coming that way.
Yeah.
And I was like, am I doing anything good here?
Yeah.
And so that's when I really kind of put pedal to the metal and looked at addiction and alcoholism a very different way. I didn't look at it as you're going to be stuck with this lifelong disease, although it is.
Yeah.
I said, how can I go about fixing this?
Yeah.
Not that there is a fix or a one-stop cure, but there's a better way to do things. And so that's what I've been able to do. Yeah.
And that's been, for me, it was the same thing, is that when I worked in the field, you realize that you're not going to save everyone. And, there are in this program people, who just are not going to make it, And unfortunately, when I was running treatment center, you see it. You constantly see it. You go through and you're like, man, it's, so I used to always tell people, hey, man, you go back out, you may not come back. That may be it. And, sure enough, tons of them. When the place I got sober at, there, out of 5,000 people, I'm the only one who stayed sober.
Those are the real odds right there, right? People will tell you it's something different, but the odds are not good.
Yeah.
And you said at your internship too that you were working in a center and you were seeing them doing things that you're like, this isn't what the research tells us, right?
Right. Exactly. All the research showed that the 28, 30-day model was created by insurance companies in the 50s because that's what they would cover.
Yep.
So the days didn't even make sense. Then I was reading Harvard's research, Yale's research, and it said the longer someone's in care, the better they're going to do.
Yep.
Then I was reading other articles, and I realized, this was 14 years ago. I said the real problem here isn't addiction. Yep. That's a symptom.
Yep.
The real problem is family dysfunctional patterns, trauma that's created from those patterns.
Yep.
And how do we get people better from those things? So that's the model I created at Windmill was very different that way. Someone calls me and says, well, how long is it going to take for me to get better? And I'm like, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
And if someone tells you they know, they don't know anything about you yet. They don't know when you're going to be willing and ready to process certain things. So that I have to look at each person individually, what they're willing to do, how quickly they're willing to do it. And Todd, there's some that are I don't want to be here. I need to go do more research.
Yep.
I'm not ready for this yet.
Yep.
There are those too.
Yep.
So I feel like rehab can be mysterious to outsiders. What do you think is one myth that really makes you laugh? Like that just isn't right?
Well, I think the biggest myth is 30 days and you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. People coming to you wanting to, thinking there's just going to be this quick
fix.
Yeah. Like it's like a assembly line, right? We just shoot you in this end. You'll come through this and then we'll spit you out on the other side.
Yeah.
And they also think it's a cult. It's a cult.
Yeah. Yeah. That you're like being indoctrinated into something.
Yeah.
So,
but it shouldn't. It's not that way. It shouldn't be that way.
No, you're right.
yeah. What is kind of like the weirdest or funniest questions you've ever been asked about rehab? And was it from someone that clearly needed it?
Well, I always get that, but my doctor prescribed me the Ativan, the stimulant, and the muscle relaxer, so I can still stay on those, right? And I'm like, no, you can't.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's been lots of funny stories, but it's just so many people are in this delusion, right? Addiction is they're in this delusion that they can bring and continue some of these prescribed medications through treatment, and they can't. It's how they got there to begin with.
Right, the gateway.
People don't understand you need to abstain for quite a long time. And it's like when I went through my treatment program, I remember that you had people in there who were always thinking about when they get out what they're going to go do again. And I'm like, man, you're not going to make it doing that. And it's interesting, though, because I watched when I ran the programs, when I ran my little place I ran, my sober living house, I so remember when, we had a police officer come in one time because this guy, I busted this guy and I knew he had a crack pipe on the bed, and I had to call the police because I was working with the court system. So the police came and the guy goes, well, what is that? I go, seriously? Are you a police officer asking me what is that? I go, I bet if I had that in my pocket, you know what it was. so I just threw it away and threw the guy out. And I'm like, I cannot believe this police officer had no idea what that was. It's a crack pipe. How do you not know what that is? If you're a police officer, you should know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does it really take for someone to get and stay sober?
Okay. It's the want that they don't want to live the way they were living any longer. Okay. And they don't have to want that every minute of the day either. Right. But if they want that, then I can take them the rest of the way. If they're like, no, I don't want this yet, I don't have a problem. Even when I lay out, okay, you don't have a place to live, you don't have a job, your family's not talking to you, you still think life is good, and I can't get through to them, I can't help those people. I do my best. A lot of times I can walk them through, they can see it. We'll do what's called a family genogram. I'll show them the patterns, how they ended up here usually wasn't by mistake. Sometimes there's an aha moment there, but sometimes there's not. Yeah. So it's scary to make that first call, to admit what they think it is. They think it's defeat, but it's not defeat. That's actually courage.
Yep.
And once I can get them through the door, that's the hardest part, through the door, and they have just a little bit of want, then we're good.
So do you kind of screen for that? Like, are you looking for people that have that want? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because if not, it disrupts the entire milieu, right? Someone's coming in, kicking and screaming, doesn't want to have anything to do with this, then that affects everyone else. Now, of course, we try and work on it a little bit. See have you really looked at everything? If this is what you're going to do, what's your plan going to look like? Play the tape. Where do you think this is going to get you when you do these things? So if you go out and use fentanyl and that's your drug of choice, what's the likelihood you're going to survive another year?
That's right.
Those types of things. So if we can work with them, or they know what they might lose, and we get family intervention. We work a lot with families. Then we can sometimes turn things around.
How, I was actually curious about that. What kind of ratio do you think it is of people bringing themselves and family members bringing them? Like what?
I would say it's 90%.
Yeah, most people
mostly.
Most people are not going to bring themselves into that kind of program, because the program really, it's about surrender, and it's hard to get people to surrender. It's like telling a rich man, okay, here's $1, go out there, and that you have to survive on that. He wouldn't be able to do it. So it's about giving your will, turning your will over to someone else to help you find who you really are.
So the people that bring themselves obviously are going to probably be, that's clear that they have that desire, that want, right?
Yes.
Of those ones where families bringing them.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Or
about?
a judge, like with me was a judge.
So yeah, it can be that too.
Yeah.
So sometimes when the gig is up, right?
Yep.
Families wait too long. Okay, I'm just gonna say that most do. They sit there and hope that something's gonna change, and then they hope and they hope and they hope, and now years have gone by, and it's actually gotten worse. And it's finally there's some breaking moment. Sometimes the law's involved. There's an accident. It's usually something catastrophic.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be that way.
Yep.
But that is when, as soon as the family says, I'm done financially helping you, or I am not going to hang out with you anymore, is when that person finally gets better. So it's often the family that's the enabler.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as the enabler puts their hands up, a lot of times that addict and alcoholic feel a sense of relief. It's a strange thing, but they're like, okay, I must do something about this, because nobody really likes being an addict and alcoholic. That's what you have to understand. Most of the time they're by themselves at the end. It's not like some big party where they're having a bunch of fun. They're alone. They're miserable. They're just trying to get through one day to the next day. They're miserable.
So, like, if you were to come across somebody who's maybe not dealt with this and then suddenly finding this in, like, their child's life or something like that, what would you tell them to look for, what to do?
Like, okay, so if their behavior was strange, you mean? Or they already knew something, they were using drugs or alcohol?
All right, let's start with, like, their behavior's just strange. I think we should go down both of those paths. So, like, yeah, let's start with that.
Okay. So if someone you know is withdrawing, isolating, you smell things on their breath, they're sleeping during the day, they're not keeping a schedule, they're not showing up for commitments. If those things have changed, we at the very least have a mental health issue going on, okay? Then we need to find out, are they then self-medicating with something? So you be as nosy as you need to, and you try to get to the bottom of it. And you find out, okay, well, they're drinking every night, just straight vodka, and then that's it. And then they're passing out. Let's say that's the scenario. Or they're going out to the garage and smoking copious amounts of cannabis and just coming in and then getting up and smoking cannabis. Once you find that out, they don't have the ability to stop. That's when the family members got to pick up the phone and get an expert on the phone and stop it dead in its tracks before more problems come up. And then the more issues that come up for that addict or alcoholic, the more the shame builds. Meaning they do things they regret, and the longer they do it, the more they got to unpack with us.
Right. So and probably the reaction, because I'm just like trying to visualize like what this would be like. You probably freeze, right? Does a lot of times the family just kind of freeze. Maybe they call trusted friends and family. What do I do? They're sort of stuck. And what you're saying is
a lot of times they're in denial.
Yeah.
They know something's wrong, but they don't even want to look at it, dig into it. They're afraid. And I get that. Yeah. Then there's the freeze. Then they'll start calling friends and friends they know. But sometimes they're afraid to call friends because they don't want their friends to find out, because this is, this is the couple that they've gone on vacation with every year.
Yeah. There's a shame for the family too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. My mom went to Al-Anon. When she went to Al-Anon, that was it for me.
It was over.
They taught her what to do.
Oh yeah.
Right?
And she cut me off instantly, and then I was on my own. And like Shannon said, once I was on my own, I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta stop, figure out how to quit this. I gotta figure out what to do. And, it was the last arrest, and I went to the judge, and thank God the judge was in the program and he knew exactly what to do. They sent me to treatment, and I didn't catch the miracle right away. I was in there fighting it still. I knew it was time to stop, but I just didn't know how, and I still fought it because, I'm always fighting everything, And I remember one day, just all of a sudden, the light came on, and I caught the miracle. I was like, I love this. This is where I need to be. Because they were teaching me how to deal with my emotions and my feelings, and those little things that were way down there were starting to get a little better. And I knew if I went all the way, it could be great. Because like you said, the drugs are just a symptom. You know, that's all it is. It's what's really inside of you that makes you withdraw to not want those feelings to come out. You want to push them down, and temporarily, the drug works temporarily. It pushes those emotions and feelings down. But then all of a sudden, when it starts getting too much, then you're really out of control. Because you're doing the same thing, trying to do those drugs over and over just to push it further down, but it doesn't go down anymore. It stays up and stays with you.
Okay, so I love this. I like where we're going with this. So what is the step that you would take, right? If you were to go through this, how do they reach out? Who should they call?
Yeah.
So they'll call the admissions line normally, right? And my team is trained on how to work with the family through this, because it might not be this week, next week. I have admission team members working with people that have worked with families for a year till the person comes in. So the best thing families can do is educate themselves first about this. You know, we've got on our website this 7-week course for family members so they can just take it and they can learn about this so that they're not necessarily in denial, but they're out of the clouds. Because I'm going to tell you, addicts and alcoholics are incredible manipulators.
Yeah.
And you will believe what they are selling all the time.
They will steal your drugs and then help you find them.
No,
I'm serious.
For real.
They really will. Yeah.
Actually, I had that happen.
Me too. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I'll never forget it.
Yeah, me either. That's happened to me once too. So
exactly. The families then, some addicts and alcoholics are so good. The family member, they've now put it back on the family member, and the family member thinks they've done something wrong.
Yes, to make them do this.
So then they're like, oh my gosh, maybe it is me, and I'm the one that's making them feel like this or use. And it is absolute mental gymnastics torture.
Yeah.
When you're trying to reason with an addict or an alcoholic.
While he's in his addiction. Yeah. It's not. It's smartest person in the world. He knows how to manipulate everything.
So the fastest you can get help, the best.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And now
someone trusted that knows what they're talking about. You know, your best friend may have read an article. That's not enough. Get someone that's an expert that knows what to do in these situations. Because a lot of times, you know, I don't ever want anybody to feel what I've felt. Meaning, you know, after I lost my sister, everybody does well, if I would have done this, or if I should have done this, the woulda, woulda, couldas. Nobody needs to live like that. A parent, a spouse, no one. So the sooner they act, the better off they are. And if it's nothing, you know, maybe someone just got some weird behavior, things going on with work, and they go to a therapist and they're not using drugs and alcohol, fine. But at least don't be in denial. Start being nosy.
Yes. Let's ask Shannon, what is a thing that people should look for in a rehab center? What should they look for?
Okay. You look at the staff page. You look and see, is everybody licensed master's level clinicians? And will my loved one get one of those? Not just somebody that's the clinical director on there's got that. And here's why. Like I said, addiction is a symptom of a much bigger problem. Yeah. And we need to resolve the deeper problems. So those have to be skilled enough to know how to do those things. So master's level that can clinically diagnose someone, not to put a label on them, okay, but so that they know what therapeutic modality to use. Not everybody, when you come in for let's say Bobby may need this modality of treatment, but Susie needs this modality of treatment for it to work. And so you've got to have trained staff. Then you've got to have psychiatry available 7 days a week. Not that people need to be medicated. That's not why. But if somebody is bipolar or has severe OCD, then we've got to have the proper doc around to be able to do that. The other thing is I'd ask questions like, how much medication is my loved one going to walk out the door with? Because I get people and they come in with, I'm not kidding, like a Ziploc gallon baggie. And I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
We need to be very conservative with medications. We need to look at what kind of classes are they going to be attending? What kind of aftercare program is there? A lot of places will put you in and then spit you out.
Yep.
And then the after part is the scariest part.
Yeah.
So you have to have a solid plan that's like you're still connected, but you're not by yourself.
Yes.
Because that's where all the relapses happen. They should have different types of trauma resolution, meaning if someone has trauma or PTSD, that their clinicians should be able to do lots of different types, IFS, EMDR, CPT, CBT, because not all work for everybody as well. So medically, they've got to have a good medical team, because the first thing you want to do is rule out any medical issues that could be going on. You know, someone could have some kind of tumor that's making them behave a certain way.
Yeah.
So we need to medically get it all out of the way. The other thing is every center should use psychometrics and deploy those at baseline right when they get in and every week thereafter, so we can see what is it that we need to work on and what are they missing. No clinicians that talented, you know, to know everything. So between that, having a good nursing and medical team to do a proper detoxification if it's needed, and stabilization, proper curriculum, different types of, you know, some of us are diehard 12-step people because that's how we got sober. But there are other recovery models that work for people. So choices there. I don't know how you feel about that, Todd.
No, I know a lot of people who, some of the ones I know are just like diehard. They do like, you know, probably like 10 meetings a week is constantly, but that's their whole life. They don't have a life outside of that. And I'm like, you got to have a life there, but a life outside of that. You need an outside life. They don't know how to manage that. That's why a lot of people, they get sober and they realize that, wow, why did I marry this person? You know what I mean? Because they were in their addiction. They end up getting divorced, you know, because this is their whole life is in this program. And then, you know, and then you get people sometimes that they marry together and it's like, man, that is the wrong way to go. You know, people, you know, you have to really be careful in this program because you can get sucked into being that like, it's like a Bible thumper. Same thing. You know, you got to be really careful.
Yeah. So we give people options. Some people want to do the 12 steps. Then we have people that are just mental health only, so they get their own mental health packet. Then others choose SMART, which is a CBT type recovery model where they have mentors.
What is CBT? I don't know that acronym.
Cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay. So it helps you recognize thinking errors and coping skills on how to recognize those errors and what different behaviors you're exhibiting and what actions you should take. So I'll just say most of us that have used or have mental health issues, our thinking and our perception is skewed. Yeah. So that CBT helps us learn when it's skewed, how to go about things a different way, how not to take things personally. That's the same thing with the 12 steps of AA. That's a different type of program, but it also addresses those components and gives you coping skills.
Yeah. No, this is so helpful. I want to offer to people that we're going to make a checklist. I'm going to have you help review it too, of like how to evaluate a rehab center, because I think that would be really helpful for people that are, you know, needing to face up to something like this and guide them a little bit. So
let's talk a little bit about the brain frequency there. What do you do how do you help with that?
Yeah, so it's the name of it, like I love the individualized transcranial magnetic stimulation. It is a mouthful. It's a mouthful. It sounds like it's from like a sci-fi movie. So tell us.
I know it's too much, but so I can kind of give you a little glance. I know the lighting's not great, but that's the chair in the machine.
I remember that chair.
Yeah, for those of you just listening, maybe you have to pop
you
over
hypnotize
to see what
me
it looks like. But it kind of looks like one of these machine. It like cradles your head and has these little devices, it maybe looks like an alien's going to do some
I walked out
experimenting
going,
on you.
my wife is always right. My wife is always
We
right.
did. Shannon and I gave Todd some of these treatments.
She's always the right one. She's always correct
That's why
what
he
she
behaves
says.
so nicely now. No, not really. I did ask Shannon if that was possible. But.
Go ahead and tell us about that, Shannon.
Yeah. So what we do is so different. We get an EEG. So we put this cap on your head, and then I can see right away after a 4-minute reading what's going on with your brain. Do you truly have anxiety? Do you have depression? I can tell just by looking at it.
So the
Do you have
EEG,
bipolar?
it's going on and it's like measuring your brain activity, right?
It's
Like,
measuring your brain waves. And then you get it, everybody gets their own brain map so they can see, are they deficient in certain areas? And why they are deficient really doesn't matter, but it could be the use of drugs or alcohol. It could be the result of trauma. It could be the result of concussion. It could be organic. For example, my son's ADHD, right? So it could be lots of stuff. And so if someone's ADHD, I can see their brain map and their frontal cortex isn't working as well. So then what we do is we apply the magnet, and you can't feel it, in the areas of the brain that are not functioning the way they should, and stimulate those neurons. Then the brain starts behaving the right way, and then the symptoms start to go away. It's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. So it's like sending like magnetic impulses into those areas of the brain that need to be kind of woken up a little bit, maybe.
Right. That are going at the wrong speed, right? So their brain is not functioning the way that it should. Like we take in everything through our eyes, right? And that goes back here to our occipital lobe.
At the
And
back
that
of our head,
information is then disseminated forward, okay? And that should all be going at the same time. But somehow there's a disruption in people's brains. And sometimes their neurons aren't going at the same time. They're functioning way over to the right. So they're highly anxious. And then their frontal cortex isn't working, and they can't find the word. They're losing their car keys. They're not doing well. They make a plan. They can't execute the plan. And that's all because their brain isn't running right. So I can see an addict's brain after a 4-minute EEG. And that's amazing. And then we have the ability to take the magnet and center those neurons where they need to be. And pop where judgment and impulsivity reside. A lot of times the people that are what I call chronic relapsers, always relapsing, but they try to do everything right. If they don't have that, they struggle. So we put that in there, and they're like, this is what it's like to feel normal, whatever normal is, right?
Yeah.
Or I'll hear, I haven't felt this good since I was a child, you know? So,
And when you're,
it's,
sorry, I was just going to say, when you're looking at these different brain maps, do you notice, is there similarities that you're like, okay, I can see that this person is an addict from the brain map type of a thing?
Oh yeah. I can look at it, not even see the patient, and know this person's an addict, has ADHD, and also has PTSD. So then the clinician has that information. We've done psychometrics up in the main center. We look at all this together, and we know exactly where to go and what to work on.
It's amazing. Well, you said psychometrics before too. What kind of things are we measuring there? Like what kind of?
Okay, we're measuring, so at brain frequency, we're measuring some different things, right? We're not just doing the EEG, we're also getting a baseline. So let's say someone's got menopause. I'm going to give them a menopause scale too, just to see if that's also, I mean, hormones can throw your brain off too.
Right? Yeah, trust me,
teenager,
most of us men know. Most of us men know.
Then we measure down at brain frequency sleep. So we're giving them the Pittsburgh Quality Sleep Assessment. If they've had TBIs, we're giving them that assessment.
What is a TBI? Sorry, Shannon. I don't know any of these acronyms. What's a TBI?
Sounds like a venereal disease. TBI.
Traumatic brain injury.
Oh, gotcha.
Or had a traumatic brain injury. We give them a valid assessment tool so I can see how bad they're reporting it.
Gotcha.
What's interesting is we give them anxiety scale, a depression scale. And when I look at the way they've answered those and I look at their brain, I'm able to see, are they just totally out of touch or are they trying to suppress things?
Yeah.
So then we also know how to work with that person. If that person says, my anxiety is at 100%, my depression's at 100%, and I don't see that on the EEG, then I know we might be working with another type of disorder.
Right.
Gotcha,
You know?
gotcha.
Yeah.
So that's helpful. Then at Windmill, they use a assessment tool called Track9, and that has the largest data set across the globe for addiction and substance abuse. And we're measuring pathology and resiliency. So also depression, anxiety, PTSD, quality of life. Meaning, do I believe my life's going to be better without the use of drugs and alcohol? And you'd be surprised. People will come in and want to get sober, but they don't believe they're going to be happier.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing for the therapist to know. So we can work on those things. And why do you have that outlook? We're looking at your commitment. Are you committed to getting better?
That's right.
Your spirituality.
Yep.
We're looking at, not that you have to believe in a certain type of deity or anything like that, but we're looking at your spirituality because research shows that if you have spirituality, that actually helps you with long-term recovery. I can't remember everything that's
Bill
on there.
W. Bill W. also talks about the same thing. He was like, because for Bill W.
He's the 12-step guy,
yeah,
right?
he said, but before I found God, I couldn't stay sober. Once he found God, he was able to have long-term sobriety.
No, though that was a great overview, Shannon. I'm wondering if you can kind of take us through kind of a day in the life of someone who is in rehab.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah. Okay. So it's different for the newbies than it is for someone that's been there for a week. Okay.
Okay.
You wake up, you have, they all have meditation. And we do something called 9D breath work there. It is so cool. So you have binaural beats. You have like headphones on like you guys do. And you also are blindfolded if you're okay with that. And you're able to really get in touch with your body and learn how to meditate. Because the research proves that if you can do that and stay in gratitude, you're going to do well. So they have breakfast. Then they have a process group. And that's with 10 or less people. And with a master's level clinician. That's heavy duty lifting, meaning that it's very intimate, it's very safe. And let's say, people think, oh, I just need individual therapy. No. Process group is also very helpful, and the research shows it helps.
Is this kind of like the groups you'd see like on movies or TV shows where you got people sitting around a circle in chairs and just sharing?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. But let's say you, Betty Jo, are not ready to work on something that is pretty heavy duty, but someone across the room from you is. So she works on it, or he, and then you're able to process through that person because you're not quite ready to do it yet. So you get some resolution there. So that is about an hour and a half long, and it's heavy duty. Then we do a psychoeducation, and then lunch.
So what is that psychoeducated? What does that mean? Sorry.
So it can be it could be learning a coping skill.
So like a class sort of a thing.
Yes, it's a class. Yes. Okay. We do what's called several weeks on the biology of mental wellness. So the way your brain works, how your body works, how that is affected by nutrition. It's an incredible class. So then they have lunch, and then they get to choose one of the recovery models that I mentioned earlier. So are you going to work 12 steps? Are you going to work the mental health wellness program? And you go into those classes and work through those different workbooks with the facilitator. So then after that, there's another type of class. And what we found is our curriculum is so, it's locked down. we know the things people need to learn while they're there. So we infuse that. So no matter what time you come in, let's say someone's been here 30 days and someone just checked in, they're not going to miss anything. So
it's
then,
just kind of like on a cycling thing where they'll get through there. Okay, cool.
Yes.
I remember all the fear of when you first check in that place. It's
What's that like?
It's incredibly scary. It's incredibly scary. It's very scary. Yeah. You don't know what you're there. You know what you don't know. You know why you're there, but you don't really know what's going to happen while you're there.
Yeah,
and you're afraid of everything. You're afraid of everything.
So we handle things a little bit differently. I mean, where we're at, it's open. It's a ranch. It's not in a little building in the city with a lot of noise.
Yeah.
So we've already walked them through a lot of that before they get there on the phone, because they don't need to be scared to death.
Yeah.
When they get there, they are greeted by staff that have been trained in a way that are loving and compassionate. Okay. I've looked at other programs where it's more boot camp and,
that is what they're missing when they first check in. They're missing that in their life completely already. So by you giving them that is a wonderful thing.
They start to trust and it's genuine. So that's important. Then the anxiety starts to come down.
Tell me about nights, because I feel like for a lot of people, nighttime is probably hard, right? So how do nights go?
So we actually have games and things they can do. We do have a whole community meeting at 6 p.m. So after dinner. We also, before that, exercise is important, guys. Also, I kind of glazed over that, but everybody gets a plan. You're diabetic and you're 310 pounds and you have, you're like, I'm not going to the gym. I'm not even putting a workout outfit on. I'm not doing that. We come up with a plan for everybody because that also helps your mental health. But at night, we have different card games that they can play, different community activities. We even, every Friday, go on an outing off site because everybody in their head thinks, for some reason, because I'm here, once I leave the gate, I'm not going to be okay. So we get them off the property every Friday to go do something fun, and they have the best time ever.
Do you do that with the new people that come in, or no?
What?
Do the new people?
Not new.
Yes.
No.
All right, and that's great
week.
because let me tell you why. Shannon, I went to a program, Shannon, and let me tell you, boy, they took the first day I'm there. They go, we're gonna go for a walk outside. I was like, okay. And we were walking, and my addiction they went left, my addiction went right. That was not a good idea. And my addiction was not gonna tell them that.
Yeah.
Todd, I would have never taken you off site the first week.
Right, I know, that was crazy. It was nuts. It was nuts.
No way.
Shannon, I just wish we could replicate you and everything you're doing at Windmill and just put it everywhere because it's so needed.
I think we're going to work on that. You know, you guys, we had met before and putting the standards of care for this industry are important because the sad part is people may watch this podcast and be like, I've been to treatment 5 times, it never worked. And what they need to know and hear is you didn't get the treatment that you needed.
Yep.
You trusted that this is what I'm supposed to have, and you're not getting better. So you think you're broken, but you're not broken. You just didn't get what you needed to get.
Yeah, because it's so different, right? Every person, it's so different. And it sounds like, too, from the, just at least the exposure and the research Todd and I have done, that so many centers aren't functioning based on evidence-based care, but maybe just more like, this worked for so-and-so, so let's just replicate that, or, it just...
Well, that means...
Or even, like, that's giving them some credit. There's plenty of places, too, that aren't even really trying.
That's why we have to open up some Todd Bridges Rehab Centers. Get Shannon involved. We'll know what we're doing. Come to Todd Bridges Rehab Centers. We can help them.
I believe it. As long as there's a model... and it's successful and people are measuring their outcomes and making changes, that is a good center.
It sure is.
Yeah.
If they don't have outcomes by a third party and they're measuring their own, skip them.
Yeah, and
that's a good litmus test right there.
Not treating anybody different because who they are, because that's also what I've seen a lot of these rehabs in California. They just, if you're just big celebrity and you go in, they're going to make the program around you and you going to work and it's like they can't do that. They have to really shield,
That's
make them
the
like
worst
everybody
thing.
else. Yeah.
They're enabling them again.
Yep.
So they let them have their devices
Yep.
and anything they want. Well, you're just catering to the disease
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. A few of those actors that I know, I'm not going to mention one guy's name. He went into a rehab center and then they allowed him to go off and do a movie and he ended up dying. Because an addict is going to find his drug of choice when he's using. He's going to find it.
Yeah.
And that's just what happened.
That movie was not more important than his life.
No, exactly.
I'll tell you
Exactly.
what, I don't care who you are,
Yep.
where you come from. You're not leaving to go to anything
Yep.
because your life is more important
Yep.
than anything else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The only thing they're allowed to go to is court. It's court. They have a court date. Yes, that's
Oh
different.
yeah, well,
That's
we're going to
different.
take you there.
Yeah. Yep.
That's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was one other thing I wanted to tell you guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the other thing care is driven by a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
is, unfortunately, how many days the insurance company's going to give
Yeah,
you.
and that's terrible.
And that's something I'm fighting my own battle on.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it should be based upon the psychometrics and the clinical team.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's another thing we can put on the list, Betty Jo, is that it's based upon when are they ready to leave.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's going to give them the best outcome when they leave? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The best chance. And that's what it's about, giving these people these new people, the best chance they can to stay sober.
Yeah.
Giving them that opportunity. You don't want to just send them out the door and say, you're done. You don't want to do that.
Shannon, do you have any idea how many people you've helped in your career?
No,
I know it's been a lot.
I have no idea. And there's a multiplier factor there too, right?
Yeah.
So anytime you help one person, you affect or infect 3 others, right? So when there's an addict and alcoholic out here, they're infecting 3 other people.
Yeah.
Once they get better, they're affecting them in a positive way.
Yeah.
That's the other thing to put on the checklist.
That's right.
How often do they work with family?
Yep.
Because family has to be a big part of this. Whether they're well or whether they're not well, they still need to be part of this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big part
I
of
have
that.
no idea, Betty Jo. I just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, we're just so grateful you took the time out to
Yes.
join us. We know you're a busy lady doing important work. And
Well,
this
thank
was
you for
a
asking
great
me.
discussion. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Anything else you want to throw in there on our dang podcast?
Just for people never to give up hope. They can get better.
Yeah.
And don't wait to get better.
Yep.
Take the steps. Yeah.
You guys hear
You
that?
agree?
Do it right away. You don't want to wait, because the longer you wait, the longer you put yourself in chance risking your life or someone else's life or going to prison. That's always what the ending outcome is going to end up being, either death or prison, or insanity. And you don't want that to happen. So get in there, get it done, get your life together.
And you can find Windmill Wellness Ranch online. Shannon, remind me the website.
WindmillWellnessRanch.com.
Okay,
Witness-
perfect. We'll link up to it.
WindmillWellnessRanch.com. Find that and there's hope out there.
Yeah, there's
but you
information.
gotta go
Even if
get
you're
it.
not in Texas and it's not convenient, there's still a lot of information
Yep.
on there. And you can call still,
That's
right,
right.
Shannon?
Yeah, oh no, anybody can call and we are going to help you no matter what.
What's the number,
Okay.
Shannon? What's the
No.
number?
What's that?
The number that they can call?
Oh, 830-935-2800.
Gotcha.
We will help you.
935-2800.
It doesn't matter. Just call. We'll help you. We'll help you find the right thing for you. Or if you just don't know, if you're family and you don't know whether to turn left or right, we're going to help you with the right direction.
I love it. Okay, and we'll put it all in the show notes.
Yep.
Thanks again, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon, and welcome. Thank you for coming to Dang. We appreciate it.
Yes. Dang.
All right.
Dang.
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 This podcast is produced by my wife, Betty Jo Bridges, in collaboration with Pop Populi, and edited by our daughter, Adelie Ann.
She is also the musician responsible for our theme music, so go check out Adelie Ann wherever you stream your music. Have a question or topic you want us to cover? Send us your suggestions at dangpodcast.com.
If you would do me a quick favor, please subscribe or rate our podcast to make it easier for others to find. Have a great week.
I'm running on nothing but faith. There's things far too great that I want to accomplish.